Hello, my name is Jim McLean, and I'd like to welcome you here to Hoagland's Western Store in beautiful Big Sky Country, Great Falls, Montana. Today we're going to talk about hats, about shaping them, and hopefully that even the skilled shapers out there can learn a trick or two and make life a little bit more easy for you. Our teacher today is going to be Master Hatter Mike Marzetta, who is the hat department here at Hoagland's. And I don't know what the definition of Master Hatter is, but if it's something like does wonders with hats, then Mike fills that bill. A couple questions always asked of me when I'm shaping hats is, number one, what is a hat? What's it made out of? And number two, what do these X's in the hats mean? To answer question number one on what is a hat is fur felt. It's made out of fur, and the beginning of a hat is right here. Loose fur, rabbit, beaver, possibly some nutria and some other animals, but it's the downy part of the fur under the rough coat between the skin and the rough part of the fur. This loose fur, depending on the quality of the hat, is blended, whether it's blended with rabbit, and as you get up into your better X qualities, more beaver, goes into a forming room, and kind of picture a inverted ice cream cone. This fur is sucked down onto the cone, and the beginning of a hat in its infancy stages is yay. Now this is still loose fur. The natural tendency for fur with heat, steam, and hot water is to naturally felt or twist, or in the industry we call it crawl. It's each individual hair actually intertwines with each other. And as with this body, you start putting on more heat and steam and squeezing it out, then repeating the heat and steam, it shrinks. And as it shrinks, it may shrink down completely to this small. Now this particular finished hat body is a dress hat, and on a Western hat it would be bigger, but from this stage it goes to be blocked, which is putting in the crown, the flanging, which is the brim of the hat, and then the trimming, the leather, the lining inside, and of course your band. The second question on hats, of course, is what are these X's inside the hat? The easiest way to define X's is it is the relative quality of the hat. It's a quality level. There's no magic formula. Some of the old wives' tales going around is that X's mean the number of beaver pelts in a hat, the number of suns that come up over the eastern horizon before the hat's finished, etc. It's not. It's relative quality. And the thing here to remember, and it's sort of like a buyer's beware, is that the X ratings between companies are not the same. Stetson hats has the highest integrity on putting in the X values of the hats, whether it be a 4, 5, 7, and so on. If you see a 10X hat on a shelf for, let's say, $50 or $60, I hope the light goes on, because that 50 or 60 10X hat is not the same as a Stetson 10X hat. To give you ideas of quality, real briefly, the Santa Fe Stetson in 4X, the Ruidosa, and as you can see, the beautiful blue lining is a little bit nicer. And in 5X, some of your colors, your mist gray, sorrel, and crystal, can only be available in 5X or above. It goes on above that, a 4, 5, a 7, 10, 15X, a 20X like I have on my head, the 30X El Patron, to the ultimate status symbol, the 100X Stetson El Presidente. From his beautiful, smooth hand, from the beaver and cashmere blend to the 14-karat gold finding, it is just simply the finest hat in the world, the 100X Stetson El Presidente. Well, so you have a little background on hats, you know what X's mean. I'd like to turn the rest of the program over to Mike Marzetta and teach you on how to shape hats.
Well, Jim, thanks for the great introduction. I think we probably just want to start the video with a good basic look at what you need for a hat department. First of all, of course, you need a hat steamer. We're fortunate to have a cabinet steamer here, but for most of you, Jiffy steamer is going to work just fine. It's available from M&F Products. They're very affordable. Just a good basic hat steamer. They're simple to operate, simple to use. We'll probably get up here and talk about a few of these products also available from M&F.
Mike, what happens if I want to steam at home, though?
You can use a tea kettle or any steam source. They really don't put the condensed steam that you really need to shape a hat. So if you want to shape one at home, you're probably better off just bringing it to a store that has a steamer suitable for shaping hats.
Okay.
The basic things that you really need in a hat department, you need these hat cleaning sponges. They're very, very good at picking up dust, lint. Black hats are terrible. You need 2 of them, one for dark hats, one for light hats. They're very simple to use. You just use them when you brush them. You go counterclockwise on the hat. When they're dirty, you use a simple vacuum to vacuum them out. They clean up real easy. You'll need 2 of these finer hat brushes, one again for lights, one again for darks. A couple of hat stretchers, one for those friends of ours with really long oval heads that need a hat eased out a little bit, and one for the people with a little bit more round heads. For some of us, they're just a little bit more difficult to shape hats for, and we'll get to that a little bit later. This is a 4-way stretcher here, and it's probably one of the most important pieces of equipment, and we'll get to that in a bit. You'll probably need an X-Acto knife for hat bands and band treatments of that nature. A ruler, probably about a 6-inch ruler for measuring brims when you trim brims and what have you. A couple of brim trimmers. There's quite a few out on the market. We like to use just a basic strip ease. It's got a blade in it. It's got a guide to show you how many inches or how many 1/4 inches or 1/16 of an inches you want to cut off a hat. We happen to have 2 of them. One is for right-handed people, one's for left-handed people. You might be a little bit thoughtful on the left-handed people.
Does that, you mean I need to get 2 different?
Well, actually, all you have to do is buy the same strip ease. What we did to turn this into a left-handed is you buy the right-handed one, you take it apart here, turn your blade upside down, and then it becomes a left-handed strip ease. And it's quite handy, and we'll get to why, even for a right-handed person, you want a left-handed brim cutter later on in the video. You'll need some sandpaper. After you trim a brim down, you're going to have to sand it and put a nice fine edge back on it. And you should really have some hat stiffener around. We buy it, again, from M&F. It comes in a gallon, and we usually put it in a little quart and pump spray. It's quite handy.
Okay, I can get all these products from M&F.
Definitely, yes. Okay. Let's get this stuff put away, and you can bring one of those fine Stetson hats over here, and we can get to shaping.
Okay, I'll go get it.
Okay, probably the most important thing to shaping a hat is knowing which is the front and which is the back. It may sound like a very stupid question, but I've seen a lot of people walk in here with a cross on their forehead and say, hey, you know, I got this somewhere and I don't think it's shaped right, and they're wearing it backwards. So before you even start to crease a hat, look and make sure this is at the back of the hat. And when you set it down, make sure that that little ribbon is there. Make sure you see the 7 1/8. Again, you might think it's a very, very dumb question, but it's quite important when you're shaping a hat. What we're going to start off here and do, Jim, we're just going to put a nice basic center crease in this hat. This is an open crowned hat. It's a Reno. It's put out by Stetson.
Well,
and
Mike, excuse me, on a hat that's that size, what kind of block do you make out of it?
Well, this works.
Crown?
This is a 6-inch crown. It's got a 4-inch brim, and they work just ideally for your roper style creases and low crowned hats of that nature. They're a very popular hat right now. You're unlimited really to the type of creases you can put in a hat like this, but that's right now one of the more popular creases. And I think for starting with, we'll probably go with that crease. We'll start off with just a basic center crease. We'll get us some steam here. When you're steaming a hat, you don't have to get it saturated. Hold it fairly close, set it down, be firm, but you don't have to really get what we call heavy hands. I like to work across the hat like this. A lot of people prefer to go like this. I've just, in the years, just been used to drawing my fingers across this way. It works better for me. Right now, all we've got is a basic center crease. If you want, you can look on the inside to check and see how straight you are in here. Line your ribbon up with the front of the hat here. A lot of people like to check them like that. I just prefer to look straight down the hat like that. You can tell if it's centered, if it's not centered. We got a pretty centered hat right here. The type of crease we're doing here on the Roper crease, it's going to be fairly level across the top. We're not going to be higher in the front or lower in the back. It's just going to be a straight level crease. We'll give it one more shot of steam here and just make sure it's nice and level. I think we're pretty good. The next we're going to get to is your side crease. Now what you want to do on your side crease, pretty much the same thing. I prefer, again, to work across the hat. And what you want to keep in mind on a side crease is when we're doing it, the further up here we get on the top of the crown when we make our crease, the tighter our crease is going to be. In other words, the narrower it's going to be on top. The further down on the sides we get, the wider it's going to be on top, okay? So we want pretty much narrow in this case. We're going to give it a shot of steam here. Again, we're going to work the hat from the center back. We're just going to get our hands in here fairly high on this and bring it straight back, okay? We're really basic right now. We've got our center crease. We started a side crease on the side. It's fairly tight here on top. Now what we want to do, so it's not going to look quite so blockish, we're just going to take right here, Jim, and just dish this out just a little bit here. Again, you don't need that much steam. We'll just come across with our thumb right here. Just make a nice, very, very even side crease. We're going to do the same thing to the other side. Again, not that much steam. We're going to come across, up high, thumbs in the middle, and bring it across, okay? I like to look down on the hat too. That way I got both sides here, and I can see if we're even. We're pretty even here. We're going to just take our hat, little steam again, take our thumb, dish it out a little bit, and right there we've just got a nice basic Roper crease on the crown. A lot of people, if they tend to like it a little bit narrower than this, all you've got to do is take it from here, a little more steam, and you can narrow it up just by bringing it in tighter right here. And you've got just a nice little bit tighter crown there. And Jim, what you really want to keep in mind when you're shaping hat too, these are expensive hats. You got to treat them as such. Show the customers, make it look like you're handling an expensive item. They want to feel like they're buying an expensive item. Treat it as such. You really want to romance the hat. You want to treat it like it's very special, because that customer thinks it's very special too. It's quite important to them that you handle it nice and treat it like it's a valuable piece of property to them.
Well, with that Roper crease on the crown, what kind of brim would you put on that?
Most of the people today are going for a really flat look. They want very, very little roll on the sides here. They want it just slightly squared off in the front. Some of them want a real severe squared off look. And it depends. You can look at the guy. If he's a timed event person, usually they wear their hats fairly flat, squared off in the front again. And then you get up into your rough stock event people, you notice their hats are generally a little bit higher rolled up on the sides. It's just a common thing between them. You can just about look at a guy and tell what he does in his hat. Yep. Now that we got the crown squared away, let's see what we can do about this brim. When you're steaming the brim, what you really want to do is put the steam where you're going to make your crease. We're probably going to roll this hat right about here. Okay, so we're going to attempt to put most of our steam directly right here. You really want to avoid the edge of the hat. Once in a while you might get a little waver in your brim. It's just best that you avoid the very, very outer edge of the brim. So right now we're just going to put a little steam on here. Pull it away, and when I say crease, what I really mean is roll. You really don't want to ever crease a hat. A lot of people say crease. We're just gently rolling it. What we're doing is I'm putting light thumb pressure here, light thumb pressure here, and using my index fingers to just kind of lightly roll the brim. As you can see now, we're just starting, just come up a little bit on the sides here. We're going to do it to this side here, and then we'll probably get a little bit more firm in it, and start to square our front off. Again, we're going to avoid that outside edge of the brim, put our steam right where we want it, bring the hat up, thumb pressure, and roll it just slightly with our index fingers. Some of us even like to use our belly a little bit, you know, get it right up on there. It's just a nice natural curvature, and the brim's going to come down a little in the front anyway. We like to use our bellies. We use our chins sometimes. A lot of body English. Customers like body English. They like to see a guy move a hat everywhere. Right now our sides are looking pretty good. What we're going to do, we're going to get a little more steam here. We're just going to lightly grab it right here in front. This is where we start getting our hat squared off. Light thumb pressure, and again our index fingers are what's applying most of the pressure. That way we're going to avoid big thumbprints in our hat. And as you can see, we're coming up here. We're going to just ease it in a little bit with our thumbs here. Again, rolling. We're not creasing, we're rolling. And you can see we're starting to get a fairly decent shaped brim. We're not too sharp here on the sides. We can get it sharper. This hat isn't going to get that sharp. If you want to get a little sharper, what you probably want to do is just take your index finger right here and just take your thumb and go just like this. That's all you have to do. You really don't need a whole lot of steam for that. Then come back over here to this side, same thing, index finger, and just lightly with your thumb, and you get a more squared off look. Before you get it much more square than that, you probably want to put it on the individual's head and look at it and make sure that it's lined up according to his head. A lot of times you'll put a hat on there. If you're too far into the shaping, he's going to be off one direction or the other. And you just have to compromise a little bit. Take the hat back down, steam it a little bit more, and just try it on his head, and it'll work out nice. And that's about it. The back of this we're going to leave slightly flat, if not a little bit up in the back. Believe it or not, a lot of the guys like it to where the hat just has a slight bit of roll right here in back. If you run your hand from the crown back to the brim, you'll just see right here, just starting to slightly come up. And that's about the profile they're going for in a hat, right there. And that's a basic Roper crease. And Jim, now that we got this fine Stetson hat shape that anybody be proud to own, I think we'll just get on to another different crease, and we'll just set this right over here for now.
Okay, you want me to get a taller crown?
Yeah, get our taller crown, 6.5 inch, that BOP over there. You call this your BOP, I believe. This is a silver belly hat. One thing you want to keep in mind, which I've just done, but the camera didn't show, is I went back and washed my hands because I knew you were bringing me a silver belly hat. A lot of times you're quite busy, and we just shaped a fairly dark hat. That gray's fairly dark. My hands were pretty gray. If I attempt to shape the silver belly hat, we're going to have gray smudges all over this hat, and we're going to spend a little time trying to get them off. So I was sure to wash my hands, and you want to be sure and wash your hands when you attempt to shape a lighter colored hat. I think probably what we'll do here, Jim, is get back in a few years and go with something maybe like an old RCA crease with quite a bit of roll on the sides and quite a bit of what a lot of people call dip in the front and back. Almost something like a Dwight Yoakam would wear, with a lot of dip. Then again, we're checking. Got our size tag in the back. We're just going to use a little bit of steam. We're going to start with our basic center crease again. We've got our hat down. Again, I prefer to work over the hat like this. Now in this particular case, we're going to leave the crown a little bit taller in front than we are in the back. So I went a little deeper on the back and gradually just eased off on my pressure as I came up towards the front. Just a little deeper and just kind of eased off as we got up there. So you can see we're just starting with a little bit lower here in the back and a little bit taller here in the front. Our center crease, you want to check it out. We're pretty much in line right down the center. Now what we're going to do is just take the back down a little bit more and widen it up. Working from the inside out again, just bring it across just like that. A little bit more heavy pressure in the back because we're trying to lower it again. Start in the center, bring it right across the back just like that. Getting our back, there's a good profile of it. You can see we're a little bit higher here in front, a little bit lower here in back. Our front, I don't think we're going to make it quite as wide. We'll probably just attempt here just to square it up just ever so slightly. We're going to leave a lot of height on the front of this. You get a good shot here, a little wider here, a little narrower right up front. Our side creases again. Now we're going for a little bit broader look on this hat, so instead of getting in quite so tight up here on top, we're going to come down to the brim or the crown right in here and get in and start to make our crease right there. Again, we don't want it quite so high, so I'm going to come in right in here. Again, working from the center of it, right here, out this way. Then what we're going to do is come in and work in this portion of the hat. We've got corner here, corner here. We're going to take all this excess right here and smooth this out. Again, working from the middle out with my index fingers, I'm going to bring it right to the corner. Right across like that. You can see we're quite smooth in here now on this side. Real smooth in here. Now we're going to come back in here and we're just going to taper this down and come right and dish it just ever so slightly right in here to give just a little bit more tapered look. We're going to take our thumb, working from the front of the hat towards the back. We're just going to dish it out. Now if you'll look at the front of the hat now, you can just about see we're starting to take shape. A little wider on the bottom, a little narrower on the top, and we're getting a pretty good profile there on the side. All we're going to do now is attempt to match up the other side. Little steam, again, not quite so high up there. Thumb pressure, working from the middle back. Come back to the inside with our index fingers. Bring it straight back to the back, so our corners match up. You can see we're really starting to get our triangular effect in here now. And the only thing we've got left to do, with our thumb again from the back to the front, just dish it out ever so slightly. Then what we want to do is come to the back of the hat. Make sure we're level. Come across here, we're just slightly high right here, so what we're going to do is just give it a little pressure, just a little bit of tug right here. I'm going to put my hands on the side because that gives me a feel for where the crease is, and I'm just going to hold it just like this. Then we look at the back of the hat, level across the back. We're going to come back up to the front. We're going to look at the front. We're just a little bit high right here, so we're going to attempt the same thing on the front. Just lightly with steam. Bring that corner down just a little bit. A little more steam. Just take this little indentation out of the back right here, and we're level across the front. Got a pretty good clean shape going right now, Jim. What we're going to do now is shape this brim. And you say you want a lot of dip in this,
Yeah,
huh?
I want a lot of dip.
Well, I'm going to show you how to put a lot of dip in this.
All right.
Okay. Again, we're going to avoid the edge of this brim. We want to put our steam on the brim where we're going to make our roll. I think we're going to have our sides up a little bit further, so we're going to try and attempt to put our steam right about here. Doesn't take a whole lot of steam. Again, light thumb pressure here, and we're rolling it with our index fingers, okay? Light thumb pressure and we're rolling it. We're not getting in here and going like this with our thumbs. We're light pressure and we're just rolling it. Most of our pressure's here and here. When we want a lot of dip, we're working it just like this. If you can see that, we're just slightly tugging it and the hat's just about rolling itself. We got a pretty good start on that side. We're going to come around to this side. Same procedure. A little bit of steam, light on the thumbs, and just pulling on the hat. The hat's just rolling itself. We're going to come to the front of the hat. Now that we've got our roll going, same thing that we did on the Roper hat, only instead of holding it here and squaring it off, we're going to make this a little bit narrower. So we're coming in here. Again, we're not getting heavy with the thumbs, we're just keeping light enough pressure to use it as like a fulcrum. As you can see, we're starting to get a little bit of dip in the front. Haven't done anything to the back yet. The back's going to get the same process. A little bit of steam. Come in here, light pressure with the thumbs. Most of your work is done with these index fingers right here on the outer edge of the brim. Bringing it around ever so slightly, and we're just going to tug it front and back, thumb and thumb, just like this. Now, a lot of people like to put a dip in the different way. Some people prefer to bring it across their belly like this. Some people like to use their chin. I like to use my chin. I really get my chin into it. Take the hat, bring it up just like this, narrow it, and you get your chin right in there, and it just makes a nice, perfect fulcrum for your hat. Come around to the back, bring the back down a little bit more. We're going to bring our sides up just a little bit more, I think, Jim. I don't want to get quite as severe in the dip as Dwight Yoakam has, because I'm going to put this hat on display later on. So I'm just going to leave it just about like this. And if you see the profile of this hat right here, it's got a really good bow to it. If you look right along the sides, we got no thumbprints. It's just a nice, evenly rolled body right here. We want to avoid thumbprints. Thumbprints are not good. It's just nicely rolled. Well, Jim, I think we're about done with this crease. Maybe some straw hats. Okay, Jim, what do we got here?
Well, you got a shantung, a little bit low crown, and it's a 4-inch brim.
Okay, straw hats. A lot of people have a problem with straw hats. For some reason, they're not much different than a felt hat. Your crown, it's going to be just as easy to shape as a felt hat. And believe it or not, the brims are actually almost as easy. They've got a wire in the brim that we can work with a little bit. And this type of a weave is very easy to shape too. You can still get the same amount of dip in them. You can make them just as flat. You shouldn't really be paranoid of a straw hat. The only thing you have to be afraid of is you just don't want to get it creased. We don't want creases in it. We still like a nice rolled look. Did you watch Lonesome Dove?
Sure.
Okay, let's do a Gus hat. What do you think?
Sounds good.
Okay, we'll get in here to our steam head. Going to use just slightly more steam on a straw. Going to take, and since we're a Gus hat, we're going to come right up the front here, just about 3/4 of the way back. As you can see, this style we're going to have a little bit lower front, quite a bit higher in the back. So most of our thumb pressure, again, is where it's the lowest. Tight here, and just ease off of it gradually as you come up to the back. Check it out. Make sure it's lined up, because with this crease, you want it right down the front. If it's crooked, it's going to show up. We're going to bring this down quite a bit more. Again, using just a little bit more steam. We're going to come in here, and we're going to lower this down to about here, just almost halfway down on this hat. Get a profile of that. Center crease, looking pretty good. Now what we're going to do, hat's still pretty warm, so we don't need a lot of steam. We're just going to widen this out ever so slightly up in here. Just dish it out. Take your thumbs and just gradually work it in there. Now we're going to take and start on our side creases. We want our side creases fairly crisp, so we're going to start fairly high in here again. Coming up, working from the middle, outward, bringing it down just about to the peak, and just about even with the back here. If you see my thumbs and how they end up, I'm almost to the peak here, and I'm almost to the peak here. Now we're going to come over to our other side. A little steam because the hat's still fairly warm. These straws retain a little bit of that heat, so you don't need quite as much. Bring it back just about to there where we were. Smooth it out a little bit down and through here again. Take your thumb, dish it out. Now we're going to come and take care of this right in here. With our index fingers, we're going to run from the front, starting in the middle, run to the front and back, just like that. We're just trying to define this just a little bit more and get rid of the bulge like you see right here. Now we're going to come over to the other side here and take this bulge out right in here, even it up with the other side. Straw hat's pretty warm still, so what we gotta take, light pressure with our thumbs, working from the center, out, bring it up, and you can see the hat's really starting to take form now. We've got our center crease, we've got our side dimples here, our side dimples here. Some of the people that you shape this for are going to want it a little bit more severe in the front. In other words, bring the crease way down into here. What you want to be careful with, the further down into here you come, the deeper your side creases become, and you want to make sure the fella can still get it on his head. Another thing you want to do to a Gus hat, it's pretty optional too, is a good old mule kick in the back. Some people like it, some people don't. What we mean by a mule kick, just taking our thumbs, working the old mule kick right into here. A lot of the old timers put them right on the front of their crowns too. But this hat, it just gives it just a little bit different profile there in the back with a mule kick. I tend to like it without. We're gonna just take it out. See, we weren't very heavy with our thumbs there. If you look there, you really can't see a crease mark there, but it will stay if you want it to. The brim. Let's get to the brim here on the straw. Like I said, you want to be a little bit leery of them, but don't be afraid of them. What we're going to do with this straw first is just make sure it's centered to start with. So we're just going to take that wire in front and just play with it a little bit. Come into the back. The back looks fairly centered too. So what we're going to do, same thing with the felt now. We're going to apply the steam where we want it. On the straw, you don't have to so much avoid the edge, but we still want to put the steam where we want it. We're going to give this a fair amount of dip. We're going to do the same thing now where this is one thing we want to avoid. You see, on a felt hat, where I was going like this, we didn't get this indentation right here. With a straw hat, you're gonna. So what you want to do is work with your hands a little bit closer together. Felt hats, we were clear out here, and you get that ripple in the brim right here. Okay, so in a straw hat, we're going to come in just a little bit tighter with our hands and work right here. We're going to get a little more steam here. We're going to start with the front of the brim, right up in here. You see how we're working again with our index fingers, just using our thumbs as a fulcrum. We're not getting real heavy with that crease, we're just rolling it ever so slightly. You can start to see this side just take shape. We're going to do the same thing with the other side. Again, now this is a straw, so you want to work with your hands a lot closer together. Bringing it right on in. Still rolling. We're not creasing. Don't want to get heavy hands. A little steam to the front. Again, working with our hands just a little bit tighter. We're tugging on the outside of the brim. We're going to get our thumbs in here in the palms of our hands, and we're just bringing this up a little bit right in here. We're going to give it a little tug with our thumb. And come around to the back. Again, we're going to leave them a little bit wider and just kind of ease them in. If you can get a shot of what I'm doing here, I'm using my fingers and I'm cupping it. Okay? Going up against the palms of my hands, and I'm just cupping it. Then I'll bring it down, and I want to look at it, and I'm going to take my thumbs, and there's a wire in the brim, like we said before, and it's quite rigid. We're just putting pressure on there, and it's just working itself down. I don't know how much severe you want this hat. We could go quite a bit further if you want, Jim. Should we see how far down in the front we can get it?
Let's just see how far on that one
Okay.
we can get it done.
We use a lot of heat. I'm going to work a little faster here because we've got our crease fairly started, and I'm going to start tugging on the wire in that brim right there across the front. That wire is what's going to keep the front of this down. Again, my hands are close together. We're starting to tug on that wire in front. Coming around right to the center of our crown. Working with our index fingers and our palms again as we come across the front. Taking our palms, whoa, narrowing her up. Just about like that.
Mike, sometimes somebody wants a little bit shorter or narrower brim. Is there any tricks that we need to know?
Yeah, actually, your rancher hat is probably one of the ones that we trim off more often. It's a very traditional crease. A lot of older gentlemen wear it, and some of them don't care for such a large brim. And what we're going to do, if you look at our gauge there, we're going to take off a 1/4 inch. We've measured the brim here, and it is a 4-inch brim, and we want a 3 3/4 inch brim. So what we want to do is we always want to start in the back. You always want to start in the back of the hat for the simple reason, if you come around and you don't match up exactly right, it's in the back of the hat. Use a little sandpaper, it'll touch up, it'll go unnoticed very, very easily. So what we're going to do now, just going to bring the knife right into the back, come across, nice smooth strokes. Bring the hat around again, nice and smooth. Come across again, nice and smooth. A lot of people don't prefer to cut a brim and have the hat up against them. I like to have it right up against me. And there we are. Take this, discard it. Here again, the reason we started in the back, as you can see right here, a little roughness where our blade started, okay? If that was in the front of the hat, it might be noticeable. By the time we're done, it's not going to be noticeable at all. As you see right now, we've got a very rough edge on our hat. Okay, little felt separation. What we want to do is we want to finish this off. We're going to take some sandpaper. I like to work with a really, really fine grain, almost a 200 or 300 grain. It just puts a nice, soft finish edge. You can use a heavier grain if you want, but it's a little rough on the hats and it just doesn't give the finish that you want. You take your sandpaper, just cup it around your fingers, and I like to pinch it because I like the edge of the hat just a little bit thinner. We're coming around, taking all that loose felt off of it. You can see it just falling away right here. It's very important that we get a nice edge on this because we've just exposed the raw edge on the hat and we want it finished. It's just like cutting a piece of wood. You wouldn't cut a piece of wood if you were building something and not sand it. You want it to look nice and finished. Coming around here to the back, we've got our hat just about where we want it. Want to get our dark hat brush out of here. When we brush the hat, we want to go counterclockwise with it. Always counterclockwise. Get all our loose felt off. Underside, counterclockwise. I always like to brush down towards the floor too. It prevents a lot of that felt from flying around the store. And there we have a nice clean cut 3 3/4 inch rancher hat. Very basic. You can take your gauge. You don't have to cut just a 1/4 inch. You can cut up to a 1/2 inch. You really don't want to take more than a 1/2 inch cut. That's a 1/2 inch there, and anything over that, you really start losing control of your cutter.
So if I was to cut more than a 1/2 inch off, it's better to take 2 cuts.
Take 2 cuts.
Okay.
Also, a lot of you might feel more comfortable if you take the hat here, lay it down, and have it on a flat surface as you come around the hat. It's a lot easier for some people. I just don't prefer to do it that way. One of the reasons we brought up in the beginning of the video why you want a left hand and a right hand one is, say we were coming around this hat and coming around and we slipped off this edge. We're going to have a heck of a problem finishing our cut here, right? Mm-hmm. Wrong. We're going to take the left-handed brim trimmer and come around this way on the hat until we match up where we came off, and you'll never know where you came off on the hat. It matches up really, really good. Takes a little bit of practice, and if you have a left-handed person in the store, it might even work a little bit easier.
Okay.
Well, Jim, now that we've got our basic roper crease in this hat back here, let's jump into something else. Eyelets, very popular item, and right now we're going to show you how to put them in. You want to make yourself a little pattern, just like we have here. Most people are going to go with straight 3 across, but some people get way out on their patterns. We like to go with just basic 3 across right now. What we want to do, we've got our card made. We're going to take it, lay it up against the hat, just like this. You want to look, make sure you got equal distance on both sides of the crown here, okay? We're going to take our pin, make some marks. You can see it right there, there, and there. That's where we're going to make our holes. You need a leather punch. This is also available from M&F. It's a very, very inexpensive item. This is our eyelet machine from M&F. Use this to make our holes here, and we're going to use this to set the eyelets into place. What we're going to take is a rawhide mallet, what we have here. We're going to take our punch. It has a rubber back there over the metal. We're going to set this in right here, give it a clean hit, 3 taps. You can see we made a nice clean cut all the way through the felt. Okay? Layer back on, hold it nice and firm, 3 little taps, and our last one, 3 little taps. These eyelets are available in a numerous amount of colors. They're great for matching up band treatments, they're great for matching hat accessories, they're really handy. Instead of putting eyelets in and then having a person say, oh, I changed my mind, I want a different color, before you even put them into place, just drop them down into the hat, just like that. Take it and show it to the customer. Say, are you happy with this color? If not, throw in 2 or 3 more colors. There's a lot of different colors that'll go with gray. Then what we're going to do, we've got our eyelets into place here. We're just going to take this, turn our little machine around here, and this is going to put our eyelets into place for us. We want to set our depth gauge right there. We're going to bring the hat up, slide it right up in here. We're going to set it down right over there. Press lightly with that. We've got an eyelet in place. Move the next one over. Press lightly. Second eyelet's in place. Third one, move it over. That eyelet's in place. What we have now, 3 set eyelets in a hat that before had none. It's a nice clean job, very, very basic. Well, Jim, I think we covered a lot of ground here today. We've got the basic essentials that you need for a hat department. We've shown you some basic creases that with a little variation you can shape just about any crease you want. We've showed you how to put eyelets in a hat, trim a brim. We really want to stress the point of practice, practice, practice. You don't learn how to shape a hat overnight. You really have to work on it. I think with what we've shown people today that it might make their job a little bit easier.
Well, Mike, I know you sure helped me with my understanding, and folks, I sure hope that we help you on your understanding of how to shape a hat. The quality of the hats, the quality of the shaping products, and the quality of the trimmer, of course, all add up to a fine quality end product. So I hope you enjoyed the program, folks, and I know we enjoyed bringing it to you. Mike, again, I thank you.
I thank you, Jim.
And we'll see you later.
All right, see you down the road.